coming up.
And well, as the circles interlock, they overlap. That also, of course, has a meaning. It means that nothing is excluded from the quest. All these parts, so the physical body, our ego, everything remains included in the whole. And as soon as you try to push something out, you are going to be in a lot of trouble.
You're
Because
going to
the
lose
Kabbalistic
balance.
work, exactly, it's about balance, yeah. The Kabbalistic work is about unity or unification. And it's the same for the quest to the Grail.
Hello, Synchronauts. How are you? Welcome to another Elysian Roundtable. My name is Aida from Mexxicamelot. I'm very happy to greet you in this new Gregorian year of 2023. And here is my teacher and friend, Mike Bais from the Circle of Avalon. How are you, Mike? Welcome.
Very good. Looking forward to another of our talks here. Very much. So thank you.
It's really interesting that we are advancing slowly but surely on the understanding of the three tables. And in our last session, we were talking about the coat of arms. And today we're moving on to the second round table. And I don't know if you want to do a little bit of a recap of what we were talking about
I think
last time.
It will be useful, I think, for the listeners. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't do any harm to talk a little bit about what we did already. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So if you're ready and everybody's ready, then.
Yes. Okay. You want to go to the, I'm going to start sharing screen. So today we're talking about the second table, but let's go to our, here we are. Let's go to our tree of life so that we can show people what we were talking about in the past sessions. So please go ahead.
Yes, exactly. So we started, or the quest starts with the lower circle there, or the sphere of action. So that's where we all start in life anyway. If you call it a quest or not, that's where we start. And that's what we always remain. As long as we are incarnated, we operate in the sphere of action. That's physical action, but also psychological action. So, but on the particular matters of the quest for the Grail, of course, eventually this is about how do we organize and direct our actions in a spiritual way, not just in a personal way. And the personal part of our psyche is at the center of that first circle, Yasod, the foundation, and the ego, mind, together with Malkut, or the body, is our, that's so to speak, earthly incarnated being. So, and that's all fine. But now, how do we get out of that state of consciousness, which is operating basically completely unconsciously? And how do we move in that middle pillar towards Tiferet, towards self-consciousness, towards something within us that directs us, is able to direct us in another way, not just unconsciously, not just from an ego perspective, which is only occupied with day-to-day affairs, with customs, with conditionings, etc., which is all very fine, but how do we get there? And then we talked about that we can install or construct a coat of arms. You remember this, I know, which is like a shield, which you can make on paper, and on it is a motto and a symbol. The motto is represented by hot. Excuse me, the symbol is represented by hot. That's the image, and the motto or the spoken intention behind it is Netzach.
Okay.
And it is a reminder of how do I move out of the known world of the ego, and how do I actually move into the sphere of self-consciousness. In Tiferet, exactly. And this will be an ongoing effort for most of us, because the pulling or the gravity, so to speak, of the lower spheres is always there. The whole human world is being constructed and orchestrated in such a way that it will pull us back to the social, consumerist life of day to day, our expectations, and what have you. So out of the sphere of action, we will never get completely, but how do we modify our actions eventually? So, and what we also talked about the other day in our last session is about that to get from Yesod to Tiferet, not just only by constructing a shield or a coat of arms, but also we need to draw the sword from stone. And we talked about that the sword is the symbol of our autonomy or sovereignty. How do I really put myself in charge of my own life? But the sword is stuck in a stone. So what does the stone represent? We talked about that. It's the unconscious personal stuff that prevents us from going on our own individual way.
It's like our baggage, no? Like our beliefs, the environment, our upbringing.
Yes, very much. And it's not all like gloom and dark, what the stone represents. There are also forgotten, talents or treasures there in the stone. But most of it is something that prevents us from taking our own authority back. So, in other words, our own kingship. And that's always represented by Tiferet. So, just for our listeners, Tiferet in classical Kabbalah, the king, is always Tiferet. But this doesn't mean that it is always about a man. I'm going to emphasize it again. It's an archetypal idea that is appropriate to male and female. So the kingship within every one of us, in every soul, it's that part that rules our kingdom. What is the kingdom in Kabbalah? And then we all say in unison, of course, that's Malkut at the bottom. So that's our own private life, your own affairs, your family business, your friends, your work. How do I, first of all, get that in order? And can you rule it, not, in a only a social way, but in a spiritual way? So from Tiferet, we talk about not just the king, but this is a king who upholds a certain kind of kingdom with certain values, certain metaphysical, spiritual ideas, like a code. We will come to that. It's not the same as the coat of arms, but something different.
Okay.
So, to draw the sword from stone is to take back your memory, because it's in all of us, the memory of how it is to be a king. And this is basically, for a lot of people who are going on this quest, something that they remember vaguely or sometimes strongly, is that I used to have a life, maybe in former incarnations, where I was on my path, but somehow I have forgotten. But I want to retrace those steps. I want to go back there. But certain actions are required.
I'm sorry, it's just like going back to your own essence, no? Beyond your name and last name in this incarnation.
Very much. Yeah. Very important word that you described there, essence, because that's a typical word that we would subscribe to Tiferet. That's the essence of the person. It's the self or the essence. So you go back to what really matters within you and within your life. So also going back to Tiferet brings you closer and closer to your own fate. So the structure of your own life.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I want to interrupt you for a moment because I would like you
Yeah,
to
sure.
explain the difference, if we can, between fate
Yeah.
and destiny, because it might be confusing, no? Many people interchange those two words, or they exchange them like they mean the same, but in terms of
Yeah.
Kabbalah and what you are teaching, it's not exactly the same.
It is not, no. And rightly so, because in so many different sources and traditions, they talk about these words and there are different definitions for it. Yeah. So in Kabbalah, for example, first of all, you have two different kinds of fate. The first has to do with the first circle of action and our unconscious life.
Okay.
Exactly. And there we talk about general fate or unconscious fate. So it's also fate, but it is a structure and a dynamic that we share with the multitude, with a group, with a family, with a nation, or with the whole world for that matter. And we are completely oblivious of it most of the time. But it is a fate nonetheless. You know, it's the fate of the United States or of Europe or of this particular family, culture, or religion. And if there's no wake-up call, we will not move out of that particular fate. So we are living the life of a group structure and a group dynamic, the energy and form of a group, so to speak. But now, as we are talking about moving out of that circle, more or less, going into your own kingship, you are aware, becoming aware of the fact that there's more than just this general fate. And therefore, going up into the Tiferet, into the next sphere, also means you are not escaping, but you are going on your own way. So general fate will always be a part of your life. You don't have to completely abandon your family, your culture, your religion, whatever it is. But now there's a next challenge there is to grow into your particular fate or your individual fate. This is conscious. So now you start to discover gradually, what am I really doing on this planet, apart from everything that I do socially and collectively? But I have an individual purpose here. So that's the next idea about fate. And then you go on your quest. That's the idea of, you know, there's a particular time you sit at the round table, that's the collective, and then you move out of the table, and that's what we do every day, and you go about your business. Now, how do you do that? So what, you know, what were you made for, so to speak? And that's the whole quest, that's the inquiry about this particular topic about fate. And all of the knights and ladies of the round table in all the stories, they have to find out themselves. It's not a ready-made answer there at all.
It would be nice, but that's not the reality, no? It's part of the
Yeah, or
adventure
maybe not.
to figure out
Exactly.
what you're supposed to be doing, no?
It's a wonderful adventure just to say yes to it, say, this is how it's supposed to be. And I want to live that adventure with all its downsides and all its upsides, or how do you say that? You know, all the positive and negative.
Yes.
But you engage with life fully. And that's the individual who really affirms life and the quest in all its colors, so to speak. Yeah. So I can say something about destiny, but that is really much more about the third upper circle. So shall we leave it for now, or maybe this is enough anyway for about fate? Or you want me
I
to
think
highlight it?
Well, the thing is, well, in my personal case, I don't know people who will be listening to us. And remember, Synchronauts, to leave your comments and your questions in the comments here in the video. But
Yeah.
the thing is, well, let's just put it mild, like not give a whole definition of destiny, but destiny we can say that comes from like a higher plane, right? Like fate is more
Hmm.
operational, so to speak, and destiny is
Yeah,
like a more um like spiritual, or I don't know, is this correct?
it is correct.
Okay, so
Uh,
let's leave it at that if you want, so that we will not spoil
yeah,
the third table. uh
yeah,
but yes,
yeah,
so let's leave it this way. Now fate is more operational, and destiny is
very
something that
much.
comes from a higher plane, and we will be
Yeah,
exploring that in the coming video. So that's
we
there's a
will.
cliffhanger here.
Yeah, yeah,
Awesome.
we do well. Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
Okay.
so, yeah, we go from the first circle into the second circle or sphere.
Mhm.
So we can all maybe imagine that it's not just a circle on paper, but it's like a sphere. And that sphere is called the second one, the sphere of growth. So
Mm.
here lies the potential to not just act in the first circle and react, but now
Uh-huh.
to respond to life. And from the
Mm.
response, the conscious intervention of your life, you have the potential to grow.
Yeah.
So to innovate your life, to really move towards, new grounds of experiences. And also the experiences and growth that you have initiated yourself. They are not just coincidental because you have
No.
set out on a certain quest.
Although I just want to point something very interesting here, and we were talking about this before recording.
Hmm. Yeah,
That sometimes it's not only that you choose to go on the quest, but sometimes life will throw you in a very painful, hard situation
hmm.
that could involve, I don't know, from very simple things, from like losing your job or having to move
Yeah,
from the city where you live, to the death of somebody you love very much. Like it could be really, really hard thing that will push you to move from this fate, this general fate, or this unconscious life
yeah,
into the adventure, no, into looking for yourself, because you like you lose everything that is known to you. And I'm gonna talk about, because obviously I love Star Wars, as everybody knows by now, no, but we can talk about it
yeah,
from Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Harry Potter,
yeah,
even all of these different archetypal stories which follow the journey of the hero, which has been talked about a lot by Joseph Campbell, obviously.
yeah,
And for example, in the case of Luke Skywalker, because he loses his aunt and uncle, no? And then he says,
yeah,
there's nothing left for me here. I have to go. There is no point in me staying here. And
hmm.
sometimes life will throw you into situations like that that will force you to move and find that part of you and move into the second circle. Sometimes some people choose to do so. They don't need a very
Yeah,
traumatic experience like Luke did, no? But others are thrown into the adventure, and still you can say no to the quest, no? You could say no to the call.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
I think at some point life will keep pushing you until, like, if you're asleep, if you're unconscious and you're not doing or fulfilling your destiny, no, fulfilling
Hmm.
what you're here to do, then life will keep on
Yeah.
pushing you until you wake up, and then you start moving towards yourself in the end, no? So what,
Oh,
am
yeah.
I correct,
Oh,
or
yeah.
am I very lost?
No, no, I think you are, and I think that all the listeners can testify of this. And you mentioned Joseph Campbell. He said, to go on the quest, more or less, you have two motives, and the one is unconscious, and it's a crisis that initiates you,
Yeah.
trouble, or uh, it's a self-initiating process, and these two things go hand in hand all the time. But if everything goes well, there is a growing sense of not control, but a growing sense of direction. on your quest.
That's a good point, because you never really can have control.
No, and it's not that's not the whole meaning of the quest either, to have control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more going into the unknown. And in the unknown, you have no control about many, many things, if not anything at all.
Sure. And although we may have a sense of direction and we choose our path, often we do not have a clue what the consequences are that are flowing out of that.
Yeah.
So that's the spontaneity, so to speak, about the quest. In the first sphere, with at the center Yesod, there's not a great deal of willingness there to go on that quest, because
No, of course
Yesod
not.
doesn't want to. Yeah. So growing your Tiferet, there's more and more willingness to go into the unknown, like you said, and to face whatever is there in the dark. And not only to find your shadows and dragons and what have you, but also to find, lost treasures and parts of yourself that are forgotten or repressed. And so the boon of the quest, not just only the Grail, but a lot of psychological, beatific parts of yourself as well.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what Tiferet is about. So the king in us has to again and again remind itself that I am the center of my own kingdom, and I need to again and again give direction to my own life. If I'm not going to do it, someone else or the system is going to do it for me.
Exactly.
And you're back in the first circle.
Yeah, you come back down to Yesod.
Exactly. So the sword out of the stone is not just a one-way adventure or act. Most of the time, it is something that you may even do every morning, just as a reminder, saying again, who am I? I am the king of this kingdom. And this is my intention. And with that, you draw the sword and you put it on high, which is, on the one hand, a simple act, but also a very powerful symbolic reminder.
Of course. Yeah. And it's interesting what you say, because when you do that, you're involving your body, and then you're like making it very real for your subconscious mind. And it's really funny, no? Because we get so distracted, especially now with modern life and things being so hectic all over the world. We forget to give time to the spiritual and to the mythical. And that's part of why we're in such chaos, no? So just remember to take some time, just some minutes, to do some sacred ritual, or take a moment for a prayer, or whatever you wish to do that will connect you to this. I think it's very important, and I should be reminded of that, because I'm very forgetful and I get lost very easily. So maybe other people who are listening, they have the same problem as me. So this is a matter of discipline in the end, and saying you have to remind, like, this is a commitment of every day, every moment, every waking moment, that you remember, where is my loyalty going to? Who am I here for? Am I here for the world and its caprices, or am I here for myself? And we get lost sometimes in trying to be what society wants us to be, our families, no, these expectations, that we forget about ourselves. And I think that is a big problem we have right now in our societies, that we forget so much about ourselves to try to please others, or to try to show something that we are not. That I think that we would go very, very low on Yesod, or even go down to Malkut, and then we're all unconscious again. And then coming back from that, it takes effort to do that. So this is a commitment with yourself every day, every moment. And not everybody's ready to do that, right?
No. I mean, like you already mentioned, in a sense, there is that we're not educated by our families, with all due respect, or by school, primary, secondary school, university. We are prepared to be a part of society in whatever role, function, occupation, but we're not ready and prepared to learn about who we are or what this world is about, what spirit is. So this is a whole new game there. And we have to reinvent ourselves and to rediscover again what the hidden parts of this world and the universe are. So it's a whole new set of values as well. Excuse me. So that archetype, the king, there is we can have a picture maybe of the king.
Yes, of course we can.
Yeah, don't mind. Yeah, that's both okay. This is a very old image of Arthur the king. Arthur or Arturus, also from Latin, means bear. And he is from a line of kings, or the Pendragon line. His father was Uther Pendragon, for example. And this has a symbolic value as well. And in esoteric teaching, we're not talking about a historical Arthur, if there ever was one, but we are all actually within the lineage of the Pendragon line. As soon as you say, I am also a king, like Arthur, I'm going to rise again or wake up again to reinstall my spiritual kingdom upon this earth, which is also a reference to what Christ said, but that's a different story, but the connotation is the same, is I'm going to raise again the kingdom that is necessary to be established again. Now, this is a spiritual kingdom. So first of all, it is something psychological and spiritual. So it's an interior kingdom within you. I hope this makes sense to the listeners, but you first have to construct an idea about, what is it that I want to manifest upon this earth. And it starts, of course, within you. So it's not about an exterior castle. Your home can be your Camelot. But how do I install the principles of this kingdom, which is not just based upon doing groceries, making money, but this kingdom is about the values of the tree of life, for example, the metaphysical principles. How do I live regarding discipline and love, like Gifurain has said? How do I live the whole tree of life? So that kingship is really a task. It is not something that is already there. We need to develop it in and through us. And it's the same as developing our own Tiferet. So that kind of kingship, on the one hand, it is actually in between the higher part and the lower part of the tree of life.
So, I just came back here to the image.
Yeah, exactly. You can point it out there. So Tiferet is in between the higher phase of the tree of life, and the lower phase. So eventually, the spiritual king is in contact with the higher worlds, or Avalon. Actually, the king is answering to the authority, the spiritual authority of Avalon, and brings those principles into the world, to the lower part. So that's why, if our king develops within ourselves, our actions in the lower part of the tree of life start to change. Because we live according to different principles, other spiritual values and ideas. Does that make sense? Or is it too abstract what I'm saying?
No, I think it makes a lot of sense, because as we were saying, they're like, what I think, and we will talk about destiny later on, is like you manifest that destiny into the fate. Like you bring the perfection of the higher world, or not the perfection, but the totality, the wholeness, as you speak about in many of your teachings and books. You bring down that wholeness into the lower realms where it can be manifested, and then we can connect to that original blueprint, no, of how creation should be. But as we are so low in the tree, we are here in Malhut, no, our bodies are in Malhut, and then we are living in a very dense state. We forget about what's going on here. So in order to remember, then we would have to go up the tree over here to this space, which is in between the worlds, so to speak.
Yes.
And we can start remembering, no?
Yes, exactly. And through the remembrance of who we are, we also start to modify and redirect our actions. So the first sphere was also called the Table of Camelot, but the second sphere is called the Table of the Grail. So now the emphasis is on the Grail and not just on the sphere of action, where everything is about the day-to-day affairs and getting to know who you are in the modern day-to-day world. So now the emphasis is on the Grail. That means that every day you also remind yourself of what is my goal? What is my beacon? Which is the Grail or spirit, or in Kabbalah, it's the Shekhinah. Or even you can say it is God. So basically, what we're all looking for is the Grail, or the manifestation of God upon the face of the earth. And the beauty of the round table, I think, and the Western tradition of Kabbalah, for example, as well, is that we can all find the Grail or the Shekhinah in our own particular way.
Yes.
There is no, subscribed and fixed idea about what you and I should experience as soon as we find it. Some find it in an experience of love, or in awe and wonder, or forgiveness, or compassion. It has always this high spiritual energy about it. But no one can tell you in what kind of experience you will find it.
Yes, it will be different. And we talked about this in our last video, that, and it's good that we'll have different grails and different quests, because if not, I mean, we already have such chaos because we're fighting each other because we think we want what the other has, no? And no, this is a very, very personal quest, purpose, and objective. We're all different. We all have our place at the table, but we all have different dreams and goals and purposes. So obviously the grail will be manifesting, and the quest as well, in a very different way. And whatever fulfills a person is not enough for the other, and vice versa. So obviously that makes a lot of sense.
Very much. And one of the most, I think, beautiful but also mysterious quotes from the Grail myth is, eventually, who is the one who looks for the Grail? Who is going on the quest? And the deepest sense behind that answer is that God is eventually looking for itself through the quest. But it is looking for itself through you, or through whoever it is. And that's why it's so unique. Every time God meets itself through another individual quest. And that's basically also in Kabbalah what the whole intention is of this creation of existence, is that everything is being brought back to the image and the experience of God beholding itself. So God wishes to behold God in the image of who it is. And this is the invitation of the Grail. Come to me and you will find me, which eventually is you, in the deepest sense of the word.
Yes, of course.
So this is a deep mystical idea about the Grail. not just personal, but it's transpersonal, what we talked about. So I'm going a bit beyond the topic of today, but that's the sense of the Grail eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So another aspect of the king, which we shouldn't forget, is in all the stories. Yeah, beautiful. This is Tintagel in the UK, where it is said that probably the castle of Uther Pendragon has been built. There are still some remains there. So there's a very, I think, beautiful statue of Arthur the King. Now, Arthur, in most of the stories, doesn't go on the quest. Everyone goes. He has some adventures, but the king remains in the kingdom. He has more like a fixed role to play as the preserver, the sustainer of Camelot, of the spiritual castle, the spiritual kingdom. And of course, also all the people who come back to the round table again to tell their stories, they come to the king and eventually also the queen, of course, to tell about their adventures. And this makes it a school of the soul, where people rejoin to tell about their experiences and adventures, and through it to learn. So the king is like, you know, the parent or the father who receives all the children back home, to take care of them, to let them rest there, to receive their stories, but also to counsel them, to give them advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what does it really mean for us? It means that the king is the fixed point of spiritual light within your own quest. There's always something. If Camelot is your body, for example, then the king within it is that fixed light, that consciousness, which is always there. You know, the knights and ladies go on that quest on a daily basis, and they are everywhere and nowhere. But who is still within the castle? And that's the self-consciousness of Tiferet. Always there, always present, and watching what is going on inside of the kingdom. So I hope that's like a more like a practical way of describing what this means.
I think so. It makes a lot of sense, and I would maybe refer the king is in the heart. No, it's at the center of everything. Yeah. Like he doesn't go out. He has to stay in because he's holding the fort. He's keeping this sacred, safe space for everybody to come and do that inner work and integrate what they are living outside, bring it back home, and then take some time to take it all in, no, and bring the change really within. So yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, that's also the difference between the first circle table and the second one. Yesod doesn't have the capacity to operate as a continuous monitor about what is going on self-consciously in your life. But Yesod there is the seat of enchantment. We talked about that. So we are under the spell of the world. But in the sphere of growth, the second sphere, which is the table of the Grail, that seat is called the seat of the king. So you rest within your own self-consciousness. That's our challenge and our, well, let's say our duty as a king, to always be there. So at the moment you wake up in the morning, to say, who is waking up? And in Kabbalah, we would say Shema, you know, be vigilant, be aware, who is here? And we lose that throughout the day. So we have to remind ourselves of who is here, and again, become self-conscious of how you act, how you feel, how you interact, what your thoughts are, etc. And that's basically the spiritual idea behind the king. It's the presence, and who also can make corrections or little modifications within the daily life.
Exactly.
Now, for all the people listening, this is a practice. This is not something ready-made. It's like a muscle. We have to practice that and become acquainted with it so that it gradually becomes second nature.
Yeah, it's going to take effort and discipline, as we were saying earlier on. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, and dedication, devotion to this kind of work. Yeah. So the Gevura side.
No, sorry,
the Gevura side is the discipline, and the other side is the love or dedication to the work. Yeah.
Here we are. Yes, of course. Yeah. And that makes and as it says here, no, that you have to have that strength.
Yeah.
Because we're not taught to love oneself. No, even Jesus said, love each other as you love yourself, but we don't love ourselves. So I think that the work in this second sphere or the second table would be learn to love yourself, learn to be loyal to yourself, and then you can do all of these things, because if you can lose sight of yourself very fast, and then come feelings of depression, unworthiness, lack of trust in yourself. So it's a lot of work, because we are all still very much in this yesod state. And life, as you said earlier, life pulls you back here. So it takes a lot of effort and energy and commitment to yourself to, if you come down, go back up. And it's going to be, as you say, like building up the muscle. And it's quite the task.
Yes.
It's quite the undertaking, definitely.
Yeah, very much. And well, as the circles interlock, they overlap. That also, of course, has a meaning. It means that nothing is excluded from the quest. All these parts, so the physical body, our ego, everything remains included in the whole. And as soon as you try to push something out, you are going to be in a lot of trouble. Because the Kabbalistic work, exactly, it's about balance, yeah. The Kabbalistic work is about unity or unification. And it's the same for the quest to the Grail. As soon as one of the people on the quest are trying to avoid their problems, their challenges, they are in for a surprise, because they, like we just talked about fate, this is what they need to encounter to learn or to grow, the sphere of growth.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, discipline on the one hand, Gevura has said, is the love for the quest, but also the love for the ideal of Camelot, the spiritual kingdom. And then together, so Tiferet, Gevura has said, that little triad there is the soul triad. And that's the navigator of our spiritual quest. So the soul within the human being is very interested in our spiritual identity upon this earth.
Yeah.
So that changes the whole game for most of us. As soon as we remember our soul and we start to cultivate what that is within you. Yeah. And with the soul, there comes also the dawning of conscience. So a natural feeling of right and wrong. In the East, we would talk about karma, for example. So now you're going to live by a new set of rules or principles.
Yes.
And which, nobody has to tell you about what you should do or what is wrong or what is right. But there's now a new navigation interiorly within you.
Yes, like this compass. Like a compass that it goes beyond being a moral compass. It's more like, as you say, if you have this idea of wholeness or totality, you know that if you're going to hurt somebody or something, then you're hurting yourself. So you have this awareness, and then you behave in a different way, because you know that when you hurt others, you hurt yourself. So you don't do that
Very
because
much.
of that, no? For
Well,
example.
no, it's a very good example. And there's interesting recurring dynamic within the quest for the Grail stories is that, you know, whoever is going to meet an opponent somewhere in the land, and that most of the time it's an opponent of the ideals of Camelot. When they are, you know, defeated, they yield, they say in English. So they surrender unto Percival or Galahad, whoever it is. They are never killed because that's not, you know, in accord with spiritual law. Who are we to take a life? But what happens is they are sent back to Camelot. So the opponent is sent to Camelot. Yeah. And there they have to serve the ideals of Camelot. So that's a redemption story behind it. And that's very interesting. It's I mean, it's a topic in itself, but and this is about responsibility within ourselves. So the ability to respond to life. Yes. And that's also a quality of our soul there in the second circle. So, and that's something, as soon as you start to discover this within you, you know, the ability to respond to life, then your life becomes new because you can make new choices and you can, you know, give your life a new direction.
Definitely.
So through the choices becomes new innovation of your life. This is the king's job to do. And also, if things do not go well, to redirect them according to a higher set of principles or higher morals, our conscience.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have
now,
like
again,
a new framework.
There's a pull. Exactly. Yeah. Like the 10 Commandments of Moses, but then differently.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. And that is what we would call the code of chivalry. So not a coat of arms, but now the knights and ladies sit around the table and they swear an oath of chivalry or an oath of a certain moralistic conduct, which is not an ethical thing, but these are based upon spiritual ideas.
Yeah, like what you aspire to for yourself and for the group.
Exactly, yeah. Which is all, for example, about unity. You know, the whole of creation, like you just said, is a whole. So breaking up a part of the whole is breaking up the unity that is inherent in life. That's why you don't kill, for example. That's also one of the commandments. You do not steal because basically we cannot steal anything because nothing eventually is ours.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a spiritual law, and etc., etc. So the tree of life, the 10 emanations, the 10 Sephiroth, they represent the different laws that we are talking about here.
Yeah, there are guiding lines, and more than these are the rules or these are the laws. I mean, the laws exist in the universe, whether you want to pay attention to them or not, no? Like gravity is there, and whether you like it or not, no? Or you want to deny it, they are there. But these guidelines that are going to make your life more whole, as you say. So you can choose to do it or not. If you choose not to pay attention to the guideline, then prediction, pain. No? What is the prediction? Pain. But if you follow the guidelines, then you will navigate better your life, definitely. So these are gifts that, but they also imply, again, as we were saying, discipline, hard work, this continuous effort and awareness. And not everybody's ready to do that kind of work, no? And we may falter, but it doesn't matter if we falter. The thing is, if you fall down, then get up and continue. And it's expected that we will mess up and we will forget. But the important thing is get up and continue on your quest, I think. No?
Exactly. And you can always return home, which is the kingdom, the spiritual inner kingdom, or the kingdom of heaven, where Christ was referring to. And of course, the king in his own right is also Christ. But in this story, it's Arthur. And deeply within everyone, there is the king waiting for you. So there's always this place to return to, a place of rest, of redemption, of forgiveness. And that's basically the place of the king. And otherwise, we do not have, also in biblical terms, a place to rest our heads. But there's an inner home where we can return to. If you doubt, if you feel bad about something, if you feel guilty, it's a place of refuge, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. Well, this is very interesting, but I've just looked at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think maybe this is a good moment to stop, and we will continue with this topic in our next recording. What do you think, Mike?
Very good. Very good idea. And then we shall also quote the code of chivalry. I mean,
yes.
we can all, So
yes, we
that's
can do that
idea.
the next. Yeah, I love that idea.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna stop sharing now. And so, what would you like to close our conversation for today with? What else would you like to say? Just like round it up.
Well, as you know, I always like to give not only a spiritual but also practical advice. So I'm going to repeat myself probably a little bit, but for all the listeners, if this appeals to you, then every morning or every evening or both is just sit for a moment in meditation and try to reach out inwardly to your own Tiferet, the place of the king, and just sit with it and just try to let it speak on its own terms without any expectations and see what comes from there.
Yeah, I really like it. It's very practical, as you say, and then something magical might happen. So that's really great. Excellent. Thank you so
In
much,
time,
Mike.
always.
Yeah, but you have to be there. That's the thing. You have to be there. If not, who's gonna receive messages or insights?
No.
You have to be there. You have to be present
Certainly.
in order to do that. Okay. Can you remind us how we can reach you, your social media, please?
Yeah, Facebook, my personal page, Mike Bais, or Circle of Avalon, they're interlinked. So, or website, which is circleofavalon.nl. It's from the Netherlands. That's it.
All right. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Mike. Thank you, Synchronauts. Remember, if you want to leave some comments or questions for us, you can do it here on our YouTube channel or on the Facebook page of Mexxicamelot, or you can contact directly Mike if you have any questions. We did have some comments on Facebook, but I don't remember who said what. So I am so sorry if I can't remember, but we are receiving your comments and we're very happy that you are enjoying this effort that we're doing together, Circle of Avalon and Mexxicamelot. So thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you next time. In the meantime, take care and Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Bye.